Chapter 1, The Punchline. Family dinner at the Carter house always felt like a board meeting I wasn't invited to, except I was required to attend. No agenda. Just roast beef, cheap wine, and the usual hierarchy. Uncle Rick sat at the head like it was a throne. Always did. No one questioned it, not even Aunt Valerie, who managed the office but still deferred to him like he signed her paycheck instead of sharing her bed. Travis, my cousin, sat to Rick's right. Loud, polished, permanently smirking. He'd always been the future of the company, even when he was still crashing his high school Corolla into parking bollards and blaming pedestrians. I took my seat near the far end of the table, same place I'd sat for years, back when I was still doing client tech installs and pretending the family business was a stepping stone, not a cage. "So," Travis said, stabbing a piece of prime rib and pointing it at me like a microphone, "you still running that? What is it, freelance consulting? Or did that dry up already?" I met his eyes. Cool. Unbothered. Still running it. "That's cute," he grinned. "Gotta respect the grind, man. Real hustle culture vibes." Uncle Rick didn't laugh right away. He leaned back, swirled his glass, and let the silence draw in like tension before a punchline. "We all tried the dreamer route once. But most of us figured out you gotta grow up eventually." Laughter. Light, rehearsed. Like it was part of the after-dinner script. "Honestly," Valerie added with that tight smile of hers, "it's brave, Miles." "Really? I just hope you're planning for retirement. I mean, you are doing quarterly taxes and all that, right?" I didn't answer right away. Just cut my chicken into smaller pieces and chewed slowly. Not because I was hurt, that had burned out long ago, but because I wanted them to think I was still swallowing their judgment instead of studying it. They never asked what my company did. Never asked who I'd partnered with, what contracts I'd landed, or what city I'd just flown back from. They'd made up their minds years ago. "You know," Rick continued, brushing his napkin across his beard like he was preparing for closing remarks, "we've got a junior admin spot opening. Starting pay's not amazing, but it's stable work. Just say the word." My fork paused midair. Naomi, sitting across from me, glanced up. She hadn't spoken all evening. Hadn't laughed either. Her eyes flicked between me and Rick like she wasn't sure whether to intervene or disappear. "I'll keep that in mind," I said finally, setting down my fork with a quiet clink. "You never know what the future holds." Rick grunted, satisfied with what he assumed was my defeat. Travis raised his glass in a mock toast. To not ending up broke. The whole table laughed, again. Except Naomi. And me. I looked around at the house. The same framed Carter Tech Solutions anniversary photo by the door. The same overcooked opinions. The same old power structure. But they didn't see it, not yet. They didn't see the paperwork that had cleared last week. Or the closed-door meeting I'd flown in for tomorrow. Let them toast to my failure. Let them snicker into their second glass of Cabernet. Because next time I walked into a room with all of them present, I wouldn't be taking a seat at the table. I'd be running the meeting. Chapter 2, Shelf Life. I started at Carter Tech when I was 21. No onboarding. No welcome email. Just a pile of dusty routers and a half-charged drill. Uncle Rick had called it a chance to prove myself. What he meant was, no one else wanted the job, and I was family. Disposable labor with a familiar last name. They stuck me in logistics first. Not even full installs, just organizing cables, labeling boxes, keeping track of spare monitors no one touched. I remember standing in the back room for hours, stacking outdated modems like bricks in a wall no one would ever see. No windows. No AC. Just hum and dust and the occasional wasp. Travis called me Shelf Boy. Said it loud enough for the entire office to hear every time he passed through. "Hey, Shelf Boy, think you could alphabetize faster next time? Clients love it when our backroom inventory is photo-ready." Uncle Rick never corrected him. Valerie just smiled. I tried to stay focused. Head down. Learn what I could. When the field tech quit, I offered to shadow the install team. They said no, not in the budget. But 2 weeks later, Travis's frat buddy showed up in a company polo. Full install access. A raise. Company card. I told myself it didn't matter. That I'd build my own experience. So I started fixing things outside the system. Quiet favors. Old clients who remembered me from setups started texting me directly. I'd help after hours. Talk them through issues they couldn't solve during the workday. I got good at it. Fast. But inside Carter Tech, nothing changed. My badge still scanned me in through the back door. My email still listed me as inventory support. When I asked for new business cards, Rick laughed and told me to earn some first. I stayed 3 years. I don't know why. Maybe I hoped they'd see me. Maybe I was too proud to admit they never would. The last straw came in the form of a team photo. Carter Tech's 10-year anniversary. Big production. Coordinated shirts. Office champagne. I wasn't in the picture. I took it. Literally. I stood behind the camera, watching my own family smile while I adjusted the lighting. No one said thank you. No one offered to switch places so I could take one photo. I was invisible, even in focus. I quit the next week. No goodbye cake. No exit interview. Just silence. And a locked badge I had to turn in myself. But I kept the photo. Not for nostalgia. For contrast. Because one day, I knew. I'd take a new one. With everyone looking at me. Chapter 3, The Exit. I didn't storm out. There was no dramatic send-off. No raised voices or slammed doors. Just me. And a cardboard box filled with broken headphones, old pens, and a company polo I never wore. I left the way I'd arrived, unnoticed. They didn't fire me. That would have required effort. Recognition. Paperwork. What actually happened was quieter. I stopped showing up, and no one asked why. Not Uncle Rick. Not Travis. Not HR. Not even Valerie, who tracked PTO like it was a game of Minesweeper. The only person who noticed was the front desk girl, who texted me 2 weeks later asking if I still wanted my nameplate. I told her she could keep it. When I walked out of that building for the last time, it felt less like quitting and more like waking up. Like realizing you'd been sleepwalking through someone else's life. But that didn't make it easier. I sat in my car for 20 minutes. Hands on the wheel. Heart pounding like I'd stolen something. I hadn't. Not yet. But I would. The first few weeks were chaos. I worked out of my apartment, half-folded laundry on one side, a Craigslist desk on the other. I took every job I could find. Laptop repair. Wi-Fi optimization. Back-end patchwork for companies that couldn't afford real tech support. I built websites from scratch. Configured servers. Wrote clean code and cleaned up messes other people got paid more to create. Every day was a hustle. But it was mine. I didn't have health insurance. I didn't have a business card. But I had something Carter Tech never gave me, momentum. I started getting callbacks. Then referrals. Then contracts. Quietly, without press, I was carving out a lane they never thought I'd reach. I rented a co-working space above a bakery that smelled like cinnamon rolls and printer ink. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I worked under my own name. I signed my own emails. And every time I felt like the imposter they thought I was, I opened the one file I'd saved from my time at Carter. The 10-year anniversary photo. The one I took. The one I wasn't in. They'd asked me to shoot it because the photographer canceled last minute. No one thought to take one with me after. No one even noticed I wasn't in it. It used to hurt. Now? Now it just reminded me what was coming. Because someday soon, I'd be the one signing the check for their next group photo. And this time? They'd all be looking at me. Chapter 4, One-Way Support. You'd think family would at least pretend to root for you. But after I left Carter Tech, the group texts got quiet. No check-ins. No how's it going? Not even a meme. Well, except for Naomi. She sent a thumbs up once when I posted a soft launch graphic on my Instagram story. No caption. No comment. Just the little yellow thumb. Honestly, it felt like a parade. The rest of the family? Radio silence. Thanksgiving rolled around and I showed up solo. No updates. No ask for advice. Just brought my mac and cheese, took my corner seat, and kept my mouth shut while Travis talked about closing a six-figure deal with a pharmaceutical client. Biggest of the year, he said, grinning like he invented fiber optics. Guess I'll be CFO before I'm 35. C stands for cocky, Naomi muttered, too low for anyone else to hear. I smirked into my plate. Uncle Rick raised his wine glass. To the next generation of Carter leadership, he said, nodding at Travis. No one raised a glass to me. Which was fine. I didn't come for toasts. I came to observe. To remind myself who I was dealing with. What stung more than the mockery, honestly, was the apathy. No one cared enough to be hostile. To them, I'd already failed. I was the relative with potential who didn't pan out. The cautionary tale they'd whisper about after I left the room. Even my mom, who meant well, would say things like, I just wish you had a little more stability, baby. As if stability and submission were the same thing. I stopped sharing milestones after that. Didn't tell them when I landed my first 6-month retainer. Or when I hired my first contractor. Or when one of Travis's big clients sent me a direct referral. No celebration. No Facebook post. I kept it tight. Because the truth is, support from them had always been one way. They cheered when I followed the rules. When I took the scraps. When I stayed in line. The second I stepped off their script. They called it failure. Fine. Let them think I was sinking. Let them toss lifelines I'd never asked for. Because when the tide finally rose, I wasn't inviting anyone on the boat. Chapter 5, The Build. Growth doesn't feel like a montage. It feels like isolation. No triumphant music. Just long nights. Missed texts. A cracked screen that buzzes with invoices instead of inspiration. I didn't blow up overnight. There were no viral moments. Just word of mouth and one stubborn refusal to stay where they left me. At first, it was patch jobs. Fixing broken databases for nonprofits that paid in Amazon gift cards. Running diagnostics on ancient desktops for dentists who thought the cloud meant bad weather. But I said yes to everything. Learned as I went. Fake confidence until I had real wins to point to. I watched YouTube tutorials at midnight, built websites in languages I barely spoke, and taught myself licensing compliance because no one else would. And then, something shifted. A startup I helped during a server crash signed me to a monthly retainer. Then another one did. Then a regional logistics firm outsourced their IT entirely. To me. I hired a contractor. Then two. One day, I realized I didn't need the bakery co-working space anymore. I leased a tiny office downtown. It smelled like dust and potential. The first time I turned the key, I stood there for a long minute, just looking at the door. No nameplate. No family crest. Just mine. Carter Digital Solutions, not affiliated with Carter Tech. Legally and otherwise. I thought about changing the name. Creating distance. But then I remembered something Travis once said. Nobody even remembers what Miles does. He just plays around with wires and hopes someone notices. So I kept the name. Let them notice now. A few months later, I got a cold email from one of Carter Tech's former clients. They'd heard I was more responsive. Asked if I could troubleshoot a vendor migration they'd been stuck on for weeks. I didn't gloat. I didn't mention the family name. I just got it done. Clean. Fast. Quiet. Word spread faster than I expected. People remembered how I made them feel when I wasn't being told to stay in my lane. And that's when Carla reappeared. We'd gone to college together, she'd studied business law, I'd dropped out. She was brilliant even back then, but now she was working deals for venture-backed startups and mid-market firms like it was chess. She saw what I was building. "Let me help," she said. "Offload the contracts, tighten your filings, start structuring for growth." I didn't ask why. She just said, "Because one day, they're going to come asking for help. And you'll need to be ready to say yes. Or no. In writing." So I handed her the reins. We started building something bigger. Systems. Structures. Leverage. I wasn't trying to compete with Carter Tech. I was waiting for the right angle. Because sooner or later, they were going to make a mistake. And when they did, I'd be the one holding the solution. And the pen. Chapter 6, Whispers and Leverage. It started with a LinkedIn post. A vague update from a former Carter Tech project manager, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Just a sunny photo of a latte and the caption, "Sometimes change isn't just good, it's overdue. Here's to new chapters." A week later, a client I'd picked up on retainer, logistics firm, mid-size, high volume, mentioned something offhand on a Zoom call. "We used to use Carter for our back-end support. But we've had more outages in the last 6 months than the last 6 years. Know anyone over there still?" I smiled. "No one I'm close to." But the seed was planted. I didn't have to dig for long. Carter Tech wasn't publicly traded, but people talk, especially in tech. Vendors. Clients. Former employees. One glass of wine too deep at a networking event and someone let it slip. They were bleeding talent. Rick was refusing to update their infrastructure. Valerie had apparently passed on a cloud migration opportunity because she didn't trust anything that didn't sit on a server rack. Even Travis, Mr. Sales Prodigy, had allegedly lost 3 major accounts after mishandling a pricing restructure. Word was he was blaming the engineering team. Typical. I could have just smiled and let them spiral. But then I got an email. From Mr. Ellison. He'd been one of the firm's minority stakeholders for decades, a quiet presence in the background. The kind of man who only showed up when it mattered. He'd liked me, back in the day. Used to sneak me extra drink tickets at company events and say things like, "You've got the patience. They don't realize what that's worth yet." His email was short. "Miles, I hear you've built something solid. I'm stepping back from my Carter shares. Thought you might want first look." I didn't respond right away. I sat there, rereading the sentence over and over. It felt like the universe had cleared its throat. Carla reviewed the documents 2 days later. She whistled when she saw the valuation. "They're in trouble," she said. "This number is low. Either Ellison's being generous. Or he's getting out before the floor caves in." Either way, I wasn't walking through the front door. I was coming in through the wires. Through the systems I used to wire myself. Carla looked at me across the table. "You want to go loud or stay invisible?" "Invisible," I said. "For now." Because I wasn't done listening. Not yet. And when the meeting invite finally hit their inboxes, it wouldn't be a warning. It would be a conclusion. Chapter 7, Paper Trail. The buy-in wasn't dramatic. No bidding war. No headlines. Just a quiet series of signatures between 2 people who understood discretion. Mr. Ellison met me in a private office at Carla's firm. We shook hands like we were trading baseball cards, not equity. "I always said you were the only one in that office who knew how to listen," he said, sliding the folder across the table. "They never listened to you, did they?" "No," I said. But I heard everything. He nodded. Then you'll know what to do with it. The documents weren't flashy. Just forms. Ownership transfers. Corporate structure updates. Voting rights. But line by line, I was acquiring something they never thought I'd touch. Control. Carla made sure every detail was airtight. The purchase went through an LLC we'd set up 2 years prior. No Carter branding. No way to trace it back to me unless you had access to the filings, and even then, good luck. You want to trigger the notification now? Carla asked. No, I said. Let it simmer. There was no need to rush. The firm still had no idea Ellison had sold. And under the terms of the agreement, I didn't need to announce anything until the next quarterly meeting. Which meant I had time to study the battlefield. And what I saw? Was chaos. Budgets were bleeding. Client satisfaction was plummeting. Valerie had slashed IT support hours to save costs, which only made outages worse. Travis had pushed a bold new pricing strategy that alienated half their legacy accounts. No one was steering the ship. And no one realized someone else now owned the wheel. The funniest part? I was still getting family group texts. Still being tagged in passive-aggressive memes about grind culture and people who think owning a laptop makes you a CEO. Rick sent one the same day I filed my shareholder update with the state. Not everyone's cut out for leadership, Miles. Some people were just meant to clock in. I didn't respond. Didn't need to. Because in the background, piece by piece, I was rebuilding the thing they thought they owned. The difference was, this time, the blueprint had my name on it. Chapter 8, the fine print. Carter Tech didn't realize they'd been sold. Not at first. Ellison had always been hands-off, a shadow name on the org chart, never involved in day-to-day. So when his exit didn't come with a farewell party or a press release, no one blinked. Especially not Rick. He was too busy cutting corners and patting himself on the back. Valerie had moved into cost control mode, canceling basic services like the cleaning crew and demanding employees wash their own mugs. Travis was giving internal presentations on retention through assertive confidence. Whatever that meant. Meanwhile, Carla and I were laying the groundwork. We updated vendor contracts. Shifted internal reporting structures. Nothing that triggered alarms, just small nudges. The kind that feel like drafts in a room with closed windows. And then we restructured the board. Ellison's voting rights were fully transferred. Which meant mine were. And with that came something subtle, something no one reads until it's too late. The clause. Buried on page 42 of the shareholder agreement. A provision that allowed the primary stakeholder to call a strategic realignment meeting without board approval, provided quarterly earnings dipped below 12% margin. Carter Tech's last 2 quarters? 9.6 and 7.3. Checkmate. Carla slid the clause across the desk one afternoon, her red pen circling the language like it was blood in water. You want to pull the trigger? Not yet, I said. I want one more quarterly report. I want the dip to feel natural. She raised an eyebrow. Strategic suffering. That's cold. It's not suffering, I said. It's clarity. They built their kingdom on neglect. I'm just letting the math catch up. The next few weeks were quiet. Too quiet. Which meant things were unraveling faster than they realized. A former client emailed me a file by mistake, an RFP that had been meant for Carter Tech but got rerouted. I read the notes in the margin. Slow response. Missed specs. Unprofessional tone. Travis had signed the proposal. I forwarded it to Carla with no comment. She replied with a single line. Want me to bring donuts to the meeting? Not yet. But soon. Because the fine print wasn't just language. It was leverage. And the longer they ignored it, the tighter the noose would draw. Chapter 9, the meeting notice. The calendar invite went out at 6:02 a.m. on a Thursday. Subject, Quarterly Strategic Realignment, Attendance Required. Location, Carter Tech Main Conference Room, B1. Time, Monday, 9 a.m. sharp. No sender name. Just the company system. Clean. Professional. Designed to blend in with a dozen other meetings clogging their schedules. But this one was different. This one had a PDF attachment. Inside, a basic one-pager outlining 3 agenda items. Ownership transitions. Operational restructuring. Long-term vision alignment. No names. No hints. Just enough to rattle the right nerves. By noon, the group chat was buzzing. I wasn't in it, of course, but Naomi was. She sent me a screenshot. Travis, WTF is this? Is Dad stepping down? Valerie, I didn't approve this. Who scheduled it? Rick, everyone calm down. It's probably Ellison doing one of his end-of-year things. I'll handle it. Naomi didn't comment. Just sent me the screen grab with eyes emoji. I replied with a thumbs up. Carla called me that night. You ready? I stood at the window of my new office, looking out at a city that no longer felt like it was watching me lose. Yeah, I said. They won't see it coming. Because Monday wouldn't just be a meeting. It would be a reckoning. Every smug laugh. Every skipped promotion. Every time they called me shelf boy or treated me like a placeholder in my own bloodline, all of it was walking back through the front door. Only now, I didn't need their approval. I had the paperwork. I had the power. And when I took my seat at the table, they'd finally know what it felt like to be on the other side of the silence. Chapter 10, The Reveal. The conference room smelled like stale coffee and arrogance. Rick sat at the head of the table, sleeves rolled up like he was preparing to do something useful. Valerie had her usual manila folder, mostly empty, but it made her feel important. Travis was half scrolling through his phone, still wearing that smug expression that said he expected applause any minute now. Naomi was there too. Not talking. Not fidgeting. Just watching. They thought this meeting was about Ellison. They thought they were in control. I waited until 9:03 to walk in. 3 minutes late. Just long enough to rattle the ones who value punctuality more than people. I opened the door slowly, deliberately. Let the silence hit. Valerie looked up first. Her eyes narrowed in confusion. Then widened. Rick turned, half rising from his chair. Miles? Travis actually laughed. Did you take a wrong turn, man? This is board level. Downstairs is. I know where I'm supposed to be, I said. I dropped my laptop bag on the table. Calm. Steady. The sound echoed. Then I pulled out the binder. Not too thick. Not flashy. Just polished leather and sharp corners. Carla followed me in, silent and composed, a second binder in hand. What is this? Rick said, trying to stand fully now. Carla beat him to it. She slid the updated ownership chart across the table, flipped to the flag page. Effective last quarter, she said crisply, Mr. Carter became the majority shareholder in Carter Tech Holdings. The transition was filed with the state and the Internal Compliance Board. You would have received notice if you'd opened your mail. Valerie's mouth opened. Then closed. Rick looked at me, red creeping up his neck. This is a joke. No, I said. That was the last 15 years. This is the correction. Travis scoffed. You bought Ellison shares? That doesn't give you power. He was silent, bored. He didn't have. He had a clause, I said. Page 42. Strategic realignment. Triggered by sub-12% margins for 2 consecutive quarters. Carla nodded, producing a printout of the last 2 quarterly earnings. Highlighted. Annotated. Verified. Rick snatched the page, his hand shaking. Naomi let out a breath. Soft. Almost a whisper. You've all been so focused on who's above you, I said, you never looked at who was behind you. Valerie reached for her phone. This has to be challenged. We'll call a vote. There won't be one, Carla said. Ownership votes are binding. You signed that agreement 15 years ago. We have the originals. I turned toward the projector, connected my laptop, and opened the new org chart. My name, clean and bold, at the top. Not shelf boy. Not potential. Just Miles Carter. Owner. Operator. Final say. I didn't look back as I clicked the final slide. But I could feel them staring. And for the first time, they didn't see failure. They saw exactly who they'd ignored. Chapter 11, Silence on the floor. No one said a word. Not at first. The projector fan hummed softly, still casting my name across the wall in quiet, glowing defiance. Rick sat frozen, eyes locked on the org chart like staring at it long enough would undo it. Valerie's phone hung useless in her hand, the screen dark, the call she meant to make already a lost cause. Travis was the first to break. This can't be legal, he snapped, rising from his chair. There's no way you just, swoop in and take over? That's not how this works. Carla didn't flinch. It's exactly how this works. Mr. Ellison's shares transferred legally. You had the opportunity to match the offer. None of you responded. You didn't give us time. You had 2 fiscal quarters, she said. And a 10-day formal review window. We have the timestamped correspondence. Valerie looked stunned. Why wouldn't Ellison come to us first? He did, I said. You just didn't open the email. Rick finally spoke. Quiet. Measured. The way he sounded just before firing someone. What exactly are you planning, Miles? I met his gaze. A reset. This company was built on discipline, not revenge. No, I said. It was built on silence. On legacy. On hierarchy. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because someone needs to clean up the mess. Travis muttered something under his breath. What was that? I asked, calm as ever. I said this is pathetic, he spat. You're pathetic. Coming in here acting like some king. You were a glorified IT guy. No one ever took you seriously. I leaned forward slightly. You didn't. That's different. Naomi stirred beside him. Travis, maybe don't. He turned to her, confused. Don't what? Talk like you still have the high ground, she said, voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. Travis blinked. Sat back down. Rick straightened his shoulders. So what now? You just walk in and start firing people? No, I said. Not today. I closed my laptop. The projector went dark. But things will change. Underperformance will have consequences. Entitlement will have limits. And your last names won't protect you anymore. Valerie bristled. You can't just erase our history. I'm not here to erase anything, I said, walking toward the door. I'm here to make sure it stops repeating. When the door shut behind me, the silence in the room wasn't from confusion anymore. It was recognition. They finally saw me. And I hadn't even started yet? Chapter 12, Terms of Employment. The memo went out at 4 p.m. sharp. Subject, Updated Employment Terms, effective immediately. Sender, Miles Carter, Managing Director. Recipients, all staff, Carter Tech. The contents were simple. Not aggressive. Just firm. A departmental audit. Performance reviews with outside evaluators. A full rewrite of the internal reporting structure. Every role, every salary, every responsibility, revalidated. No more legacy promotions. No more family fast tracks. Accountability was the new standard. I stayed late that night. Walked the halls alone. Past the same break room where I used to heat up off-brand frozen meals, the same IT closet where they'd stashed me my first year, the same glass-walled offices that had once felt like barriers to entry. Now? They were mine. Naomi found me in the hallway near the server room, the place no one visited unless something broke. "I read the memo," she said softly. "Yeah," I nodded. She hesitated. "They're panicking." "They should be." She studied me for a second. "You're not going to keep all of them, are you?" "Depends who wants to stay." She didn't flinch. "I do." I nodded once. "Then start fresh. I want a full operations brief on my desk by Monday. No padding. No excuses." She gave a small smile. "Copy that." After she left, I stood there for a while, hand resting on the cold metal of the doorframe. This place had always belonged to the people who talked the loudest. But now it was being rebuilt by the one who listened. I didn't need to humiliate anyone. I didn't need applause. All I needed was structure. And silence. Let them whisper. Let them wonder who's next. The rules were clear now. And for the first time, they applied to everyone. Chapter 13, The One Who Stayed Quiet. Not everyone had laughed at me. Most did. Some louder than others. Some with smirks. Some with silence that spoke louder than words. But Naomi? She stayed quiet. And sometimes, that matters more than people think. She never defended me publicly. Never stood between me and Rick's jabs or Travis's smug little digs. But she never joined in either. She never rolled her eyes when I spoke in meetings. Never forwarded the memes they texted about my entrepreneurial phase. Never told me I was being dramatic when I said I was leaving. She just listened. Paid attention. And when the invites went out for the first executive restructuring session, she was the only one who replied, "Happy to support, let me know how I can help." That mattered. I called her into my office the following week. No fanfare. No agenda. She knocked twice, then opened the door, a slim notebook in hand. "You wanted to see me?" "Yeah," I said, gesturing to the seat across from me. "Close the door." She did. I slid a folder across the desk. She paused before opening it. "What is this?" "Your new title. And your new compensation package." Her eyebrows lifted. "I didn't apply for anything." "You didn't have to. You earned it." Naomi looked down at the offer. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice didn't. "Why me?" I leaned back in my chair. "Because you showed up. You did the work. You didn't make noise, but you didn't stay blind, either." She blinked fast, like something behind her eyes was trying to surface but hadn't yet gotten permission. "You could have left," I said. "You didn't. That counts." She closed the folder and looked up. "I won't let you down." "I know." And I meant it. Later that afternoon, as she walked past Travis's desk with the promotion folder tucked under her arm, he did a double take. "What's that?" he asked. She smiled politely. "Alignment." He looked confused. "Good. Let him stay that way." Because loyalty doesn't always come with a speech. Sometimes it's just someone choosing not to step on you while you're climbing back up. And when you finally reach the top, you don't forget the ones who kept their boots off your neck. Chapter 14, Full Circle. The building looked the same. Same faded signage. Same cracked sidewalk out front. Same crooked plaque by the entrance that still read Carter Tech Solutions, Est. 1994. But everything inside had changed. The energy. The silence. The weight of the air. I walked through the front doors alone, no clipboard in hand, no badge clipped to my collar. No one barked orders. No one glanced up with that look that said, "What are you doing here?" Because now, everyone knew exactly why I was here. I passed the front desk, the one I used to man when the receptionist called out, and nodded to the new hire, a sharp kid who reminded me of me. The version no one invested in. He smiled. "Morning, Mr. Carter." Not shelf boy. Not IT. Not "Hey, can you fix this real quick?" Just Mr. Carter. I stepped into the main office. Light streamed through the windows now. Valerie had always kept the blinds closed to avoid distractions. The desks were reorganized. Cleaner. Smarter. My team had done good work in a short time. But I didn't stop there. I walked past the break room, where I used to eat lunch standing up. Past the inventory closet where I'd spent more hours than I cared to count. Past the wall where the 10-year anniversary photo had once hung. It was gone now. Replaced by a new one. I stood in front of it for a moment. This one had everyone in it, from the front desk to the field techs. No missing faces. No invisible contributors. No fake smiles. And right in the center, not highlighted, not spotlighted, just present, was me. I didn't frame it. I didn't order it. One of the staff took the photo during the first all hands under my leadership. They printed it. Hung it up themselves. It wasn't about power. It was about presence. Recognition, finally earned. Quietly kept. I headed upstairs, to the corner office. The one Rick used to claim with the best view of the skyline. It was mine now. But I didn't use it. I'd turned it into a team space, whiteboards, couches, charging stations. I worked 2 doors down, in the same small room I started in. Because I never needed a view. I just needed a door they wouldn't shut in my face. Now I had it. And I wasn't locking anyone out. Epilogue, new business hours. The new sign went up on a Monday. Nothing flashy. No grand rebrand. Just a clean slate. Carter Solutions Group. Est. 2024, rebuilt from within. No tech. No legacy. Just a name that carried history without being chained to it. The old guard didn't show up to see it installed. Rick had stepped away to focus on personal priorities. Valerie accepted a severance and wrote me a 2-line goodbye email. Travis stayed on contract. For now. Every time we met, he kept glancing at the door like he expected someone to interrupt him and remind him who was really in charge. They all got the message. I didn't destroy the business. I made it honest. A few months later, an intern, nervous, bright, fresh out of undergrad, asked me if the rumors were true. "Did you really used to work here? Like, in the back?" I smiled. "Yeah. And now you own it?" "That's how business works," I said. "You just have to pay attention to the fine print." He looked stunned. Like I'd told him magic was real. But it wasn't magic. It was momentum. Patience. Listening. And when I walked out of that morning meeting, I didn't slam the door. I opened it wider. Let them talk. Let them spin the story. Because in the end, they can say whatever they want. I made it. And they work for me now.
Thanks so much for watching. If you love a good revenge story, or if you've ever dreamed of getting the last word without saying much at all, you're in the right place. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new savage ending. Because around here, karma always hits different.